Hello, welcome to Useful Idiots. I'm Matt Taibbi.
And I'm Katie Halber.
I went on vacation this weekend, and I did not want to. It was awesome, and I didn't miss anybody or anything. Did not want to come back.
What you're saying is, hi, I'm Matt Taibbi, and I'm really unhappy to be here.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it. I mean,
that's not true. I'm already back into the swing of things. So I'm very happy to be here.
Were your kids with you?
No, they were not for the first time in ages.
So I think Child Services needs to intervene because
I didn't leave them on the side of the road.
No, more that you just didn't miss anyone. But that was only a few days.
I missed my kids, of course. I didn't mean that, but it was nice to have a little time with.
So you had a babysitter and a dog sitter take care of everything?
Yes, grandparents, as a matter of fact. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, you had someone take care of the dog, the kids, and the grandparents? That is really thorough of you.
No, the grandparents were a part of the whole caring paradigm. But good to be back.
Yeah, great to be back.
Is this an interesting week news-wise? Not particularly.
I mean, yes and no. At the end of the day, isn't it always?
I don't know. Some weeks are more interesting than others, but we'll make something out of this.
Yeah.
We're going to try a couple of different things this week, but let's just get right into it, right? We have a couple of segments we want to try, and we're going to do the food groups and all that. So let's just go right into all this amazing material.
Yeah. Boom.
Should we just get to the
four basic food
how would we say that? Let's say it in a second. Vier Lebensmittelgruppen.
You want to play it?
Vier Grundnahrungsmittelgruppen.
I mean, I don't know which one was you and which one was the actual German pronunciation. That's how good it was, Matt.
Yeah, no, that was pretty solid all the way.
Identical, yeah.
All right, so let's do our Vier Lebensmittelgruppen.
Yes, okay, and that starts with me, with Democrats Suck. And here's what we got. Okay, so this is a really great, heartwarming story, and this actually could serve as an ongoing theme. Remember, Matt, that the Washington Post had a fact-checking bureau or archive. They dissolved that after Trump because Trump is the only president who's ever lied. But we decided that on the off chance that Joe Biden ever lies, we should have a record of that, an archive of that. So just like a little crowdsourcing, we want our viewers and listeners, we implore you to help us compile that list. So we have actually 2 of those for this week. I don't know if we'll get a chance to get to both, but let's at least get to one. And reading at Slate, Joe Biden's craven death penalty reversal in the Boston bomber case. When Joe Biden took the oath of office as the 46th president of the United States, opponents of America's death penalty, including me, celebrated. We took heart from his stated opposition to capital punishment and his campaign promise to end the federal death penalty. It seemed as if the United States had its first abolitionist president. And then during the campaign, he pledged that he would stop federal executions, propose legislation to abolish the death penalty at the federal level, provide incentives for states to follow suit. He recognized that America's death penalty system is rife with error and unfairness. Because we can't ensure that we get these cases right every time, candidate Biden tweeted, we must eliminate the death penalty. But here is what's pretty interesting. He has decided, he broke his promise, right? Instead of announcing the end to federal capital prosecutions, a moratorium on federal executions, steps to dismantle the federal execution chamber in Terre Haute, Indiana, or support for congressional legislation to end the death penalty, Biden's first decision about capital punishment was to endorse it. Now, Matt, guess what? What do you think okay, I'm going to read this to you. Guess if you can figure out what it's for. He broke his promise and failed his first death penalty test in a very big way when his administration filed a brief with the United States Supreme Court asking it to reinstate the death sentence of blank. Don't look. Did you already see it?
Oh, it's for the Boston bombers.
Yeah, okay.
Dudayev or Dzhokhar, or whatever his name is.
Yeah, so asking it to reinstate the death sentence of Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar
Tsarnaev. Sorry.
Okay, Tsarnaev. The brief defended the death penalty as an appropriate response to what it called one of the worst acts of terrorism on U.S. soil since September 11th. He was indeed sentenced to death for the 2013 bombing at the finish line of the Boston Marathon that killed 3 and wounded more than 260 others. And he's one of the 46 people now on the federal death row. And it was this is interesting. So his death sentence was overturned on July 31st by the First U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, which ruled that the trial judge had not protected the defendant from potential bias during the jury selection process and had erred by excluding mitigating evidence. Not surprisingly, obviously. the Trump administration brought the case to the Supreme Court last fall, seeking reinstatement of the death penalty. And ironically, the Biden Justice Department's position in the Tsarnaev case, which it calls one of the most important terrorism prosecutions in our nation's history, turns out to be exactly the same as the position articulated by William Barr, Donald Trump's attorney general. The depths of the administration's hypocrisy are revealed when we recall what the president's press secretary said in March when the Supreme Court announced that it would take up the Tsarnaev case. President Biden, Jen Psaki said at the time, made clear as he did on the campaign trail that he has grave concerns about whether capital punishment as currently implemented is consistent with the values that are fundamental to our sense of justice and fairness.
Well, saying that you have grave concerns doesn't mean you're
right. You're exactly. It's up. He doesn't know whether, as currently implemented, it's consistent with the values that are fundamental to our sense of justice and fairness. Now, because we can't ensure, this is very important. Ready? During the campaign, okay, he said, because we can't ensure that we get these cases right every time, he tweeted, we must eliminate the death penalty. Now, that was July 20th.
Oh, that's a little bit more unequivocal.
Right. But what's interesting, so that's July 25th, 2019, that he tweets that in response to I think in a story about exoneration. Here's what's interesting. So more recently, Psaki is saying that he has grave concerns about whether capital punishment as currently implemented is consistent with the values that are fundamental to our sense of justice and fairness. So basically the question is, does not getting the death penalty right every time, does our inability to ensure that we get these cases right every time, does that contradict the values of America? Is that consistent with our values? Well, it's unclear. I would think personally that occasionally executing innocent people, I would say is pretty clearly, and that is the premise, right? That Biden concedes. I would say, call me crazy, but I would say that does inherently violate the principles of justice towards which we aspire. I mean, unless you're talking about like the 3/5 clause, in which case it's actually pretty on brand.
Right. You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. That's not in the Constitution anywhere, right?
Right. It's true. Yeah.
I think when you're talking about the death penalty, you're supposed to be pretty confident that it's the right person.
I think so too.
That you're killing.
Yeah. I mean, this to me, my opposition to the death penalty is in principle, but I respect people honest enough to realize that it sucks to kill innocent people and that maybe that should pause it. Why do you think he's doing this?
Because there's no politician in history that's ever been opposed to the death penalty for a convicted terrorist.
Right.
Not that I know of. Not a president.
Well, actually, wait, say that again. There's no politician who what?
Has there been a president or a prominent elected politician who's been come out against the death penalty for a convicted terrorist?
I don't know if he came out against the death penalty, but Bernie Sanders believes that they have the right to vote. Remember that?
Yeah, that's different. And Bernie Sanders isn't president either.
No, I know, but you said you said major politician, right. Then you changed the president. But no, I'll grant you the president thing. But wouldn't it be funny if Bernie Sanders is like, they do deserve the death penalty, but during the time that they're on death row, I would like them to have the ability to cast their vote. But no, Bernie Sanders is actually against the death penalty.
He is against the death penalty.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons why it's hard to imagine. I mean, why is Biden doing this? Because that's what politicians do. Right. I mean, he's right. Although, I think it's worth pointing out that even 10 years ago or 15 years ago, you probably wouldn't have even seen them take that phony position.
Right. I'm just saying the fact that he says
it's slow progress. I mean, I'm with you. I'm more or less against the death penalty. So, but
if you're not totally against, I'm for the death penalty for people like you who are ambivalent about it. Get on board. Come on, man. You can't
mostly
be
there.
Mostly, yeah. Well, but here's the point. There. Let me just say something. Whatever. It's a lie. He lied. So this is one. Right, this is the first lie that we've documented other ones, but this is the day our archive starts. So this is let the record show that this is Joe Biden lie number 1 that we've charted. We'll have a bunch of different retroactive ones. I mean, I also just think it's a very typical case of like you just take a gruesome crime and use that to like defeat a principle, right? Like, obviously, Biden's not going to point to some like poor, abused Black person who killed someone who's on death row. And, you know, this is the perfect thing of having it at the Olympics. I mean, sorry, having it at the marathon. This is how much I understand sports, but at least I caught myself. So here's another one. This is more of a sly lie. This is just an overt lie and disappointment. This isn't a lie as much as it is just like, I guess, kind of ridiculous. The U.S. Embassy, POS, what's that? I mean, POS
Piece of shit.
That's what I was going to say. So the U.S. Embassy tweeted out, the government of the United States of America has made a donation of COVID-19 vaccines to the government of Trinidad and Tobago. The donation includes 80 vials of Pfizer vaccines. The United States is committed to assisting the government of Trinidad and Tobago with its vaccination efforts. We believe that every vaccine counts. Here is the population of that country, 1.395 million.
This is going to be fun because I'm going to argue the devil's advocate position after you whine about this. Go ahead.
What? Well, I just think that 80 vials is like a drop in the bucket.
Oh, we can take it back. Should we take it back?
Maybe we should. I say go big or go home. So yeah, send them back.
Okay.
Take them back.
I'm kidding, obviously. But,
I know, yeah. And by the way, POS is the official U.S. Embassy of Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago.
Port of Spain, right? Not piece of shit.
Yeah.
What were we thinking?
But I mean, again, it's like,
it's pretty funny. Like, you know, it probably costs more just to do the bureaucratic work to send 80 vials than it costs to actually make and deliver the 80. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, right. It's true. Like, if you, I don't know how they mail them. Do they mail them in the vials?
It's just hard to conceive of a transaction that small.
Yeah. You know, yes, because also I would argue that, you know, you can buy things in bulk, right? Like the more things that you buy, you get a discount. So if you do wholesale, I bet that you could get a lot, you get more bang for your buck. Right.
It's just hard to, like, what would you even send it in? Like a coffee can? It's like a really small package, you know?
Yeah, like a fruit basket, but instead of fruit, you could just have,
or like a little, like a Ziploc bag.
A Ziploc bag, yeah.
Kind of reminds me of that old Richard Pryor routine about the boxer who got arrested for having $1.50 worth of cocaine. Like, you can't have $1.50 worth. It's like, it's gone, you know?
Yeah.
80 vials is like, whose idea was that? That's something we have to get to the bottom of.
Yeah. Is that some symbolism?
Maybe it's somebody who just really hates Trinidad and Tobago and is like, I got a headline for you.
Well, also, I mean, it's 400 vials each. For 400 for Trinidad, 400 for Tobago.
40.
Sorry, that was a Freudian slip where I believed that they were slightly better than they are. Yeah, I can't believe it. 40 each. 40 vials. Jesus Christ. Well, you know what? To be fair, Biden did say America will be the arsenal of vaccines in our fight against COVID-19, just as America was the arsenal of democracy during World War II. What's the definition of arsenal? It's like
a stockpile of weapons.
Right. But that doesn't, well, yes. And it's an arsenal, because an arsenal does not mean that you're sending out the weapons, right? So we're actually maintaining the arsenal by not giving it away.
Right. Yeah, that's true. 80 vials. That's kind of, that is funny. Can you imagine
like
the person, like if you're the person on the embassy staff down there and they're like, can you tweet out that we're going to give away 80 vials? Like,
I mean, you think it's like a Stonehenge Spinal Tap type of thing?
Yeah, it could. Maybe that's got to be what it is.
Right? It was like we thought it was 8,000.
Yeah. I just do what the talent tells me to do.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You know, I do it. Well, it's not your job to be as confused as Joe Biden, is it?
True. Right? Yeah, that's true. He doesn't get paid. I don't get paid the big bucks to get to be totally confused and demented about it. Yeah. Right. So he's getting dragged, justifiably, understandably, for doing this. And China, you know, actually is mocking him for doing it.
Well, they should.
They should. Chinese media mocks U.S. donation of 80 vaccine vials to Trinidad and Tobago. So the official Xinhua news agency said on Wednesday in an article on WeChat, Would this be selected for the worst public relations award of the year? And they compiled more than 10 mocking tweets by other social media users under a U.S. Embassy Twitter statement announcing the donation.
I love the fact that the Chinese media is now doing that form of news story where they compile a bunch of mocking tweets.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean,
it's like the Daily Beast, but Chinese.
Yeah,
right.
The Daily Chinese Beast. Yeah,
right.
By the way, it's kind of funny because at the same time you have like people overtly writing articles warning that China is giving away vaccines in the hope to like have influence in Latin America. It's like, well, somebody's got to do it. So again, if you want to use the new Cold War to spur the United States into actually doing the right thing, then by all means, let's do it. In fact, Joe Biden, if you're watching, you don't want China to beat us in this.
Right.
I love that.
Maybe he thought that's how many people were in Trinidad and Tobago.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. So
we got to get to the bottom of that. I think that's a story we have to find out a little bit more. Maybe it's somebody's idea of a joke. Like, we shouldn't judge until we know.
Yeah, maybe someone lost a bet. Maybe someone has a grudge.
Maybe we're penalizing them for something.
Yeah.
Like living, I don't know, whatever it is. All right,
that is more like the amount of donating to a nursing home, not a whole country. Someone tweeted, yeah, let's do Republicans suck.
I don't have a great one, but Mike Pompeo is trying to start this movement to give a name to the folk who back people such as him.
Smartest, best sea officer that I ever came to know is Air Force Special Operations Officer. I'd ask him about someone who was working on our team. He'd say, love that guy, pipe hitter. You know what he meant? He meant that person got stuff done. They were a grinder.
So this is the name that he's trying to give to people who are donating to his new PAC. He wants them to self-identify as pipe hitters.
Yeah, well, nothing wrong with that.
Well, there is, I think. First of all, pipe hitter is something you call somebody who smokes crack.
Right.
I know it's a thing that they talk about in the military. That is like actually, I think, a military slang term. And viewers/listeners, please correct me if I'm incorrect about that. But there's that, and then there's the whole. It just makes everybody think of that scene in Pulp Fiction, doesn't it? Where Marcellus talks about getting the pipe hitting.
What is it? I don't actually remember that.
You know what scene I'm talking about?
No.
All right, Matt, can we play the scene from Pulp Fiction?
Call a couple of hard pipe hitting to go to work on the homes here.
Pipe hitting, that's like the only pop culture reference to pipe hitting that there is, I think.
Pipe hitter also, I think aren't there some like sexual connotations there?
Oh.
Right? Like I saw this was trending on Twitter. I think someone was like laying pipe or something, which is of course pipe in that case is the penis. But the reason that I think that's the reason that that's interesting is note that he says grinder.
Right, because that's where he spends all his time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Urban Dictionary pipe hitter, the people who smoke crack and can therefore accomplish a difficult, dangerous, disturbing things because they only care about their next high.
Well, if their next high is like droning a country or regime changing, it's kind of addicted to that, yeah.
What should someone who supports a Pompeo PAC be called instead of a pipe hitter?
Why not a pipe hitter?
A dick.
Oh, you're saying how dare we? Who are we to judge him unless we're providing an alternative?
Right, something like that. I mean, it's just funny because it's kind of a classically Republican thing to be clueless about, like to not know that it's a crack smoking thing.
Right. I mean, you know what, Matt? Maybe he is just trying to destigmatize drug use, like taking a page from Hunter Biden's book, who we spoke about last week.
He's reaching out to Hunter.
Yeah. Well, someone tweeted, if Pompeo isn't careful, Hunter Biden might show up with a pipe hitter resume.
It just makes my heart warm for the old school Republican who would not know. Like, what was the one? Remember the teabag phenomenon? Remember that?
Yeah, teabag. Yeah.
What was that? That was the.
It's really funny, by the way, because this is clearly stuck in his claw. Is that the right? No, craw.
Mine?
No, Pompeo's, because right now we're taping on June 16th and at 11:44 a.m. he tweeted, "One of the best CIA officers I work with was a former special operator. When I'd ask him about someone, if they were top notch, he'd say, 'Love that guy, pipe hitter.' He meant that person got stuff done and was dedicated to the mission. All of us need to be pipe hitters." So he's like, he's justifying.
Right. Remember they had the Tea Party people?
Yeah, of course.
They had the whole like teabag the IRS.
Oh yeah, and then who's the person who like
teabag the liberal Dems before they teabag you?
Right, and teabagging is like when you put your balls in someone's mouth or your face or something.
Yeah, you gotta like squat.
Yeah. Right. It's
like you're lowering.
I mean, it makes sense though. I keep saying to be fair. I mean, in their defense, they do want to do that, right?
It's
like the suck my whatever equivalent. Bag my tea my bag. I mean, it doesn't really make sense.
Well, they were referencing the Great Tea Party. They were talking about
of course, right.
The other kind of tea.
Yeah, of course.
They weren't saying lower your balls into the mouth of the IRS.
Well, they were saying basically we should do that.
Right, but they were calling themselves teabaggers, I guess.
I know, no. Yeah, who was the person who pointed that out? I can't remember, but
I mean, everybody pointed it out.
Right,
I got in trouble for talking about it with Michelle Malkin, actually.
Oh, wow. One of the many times you hung out with Michelle Malkin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Apparently there's another definition.
There is?
So
someone who is unapologetically American, someone who fights for our future, someone who never gives an inch, someone who is dedicated to stand against the radical left's agenda.
I mean, that's, I guess, what someone put that up on the pack.
A pipe hitter.
Yeah.
You can be all those things and smoke crack.
Right. Yeah. Why are they going to throw crack smokers under the bus like that?
Right.
What do you want it to mean? Like, because they're just taking whatever they want it to mean. So what would you like it to mean?
What would I like pipe hitter to mean?
Pipe, yeah.
I guess it could be like, I mean, now if they're going to mix metaphors like that, a pipe hitter should be someone who gives to Mike Pompeo's PAC and smokes crack.
Maybe someone who sells crack in order to fund their donation.
The Republicans?
Yeah. Okay, there is something called the Pipe Hitters Union, by the way. Pipe Hitters Union. And it has, for people just listening, it has a skull and crossbones, whatever.
It looks like strongly like sort of Republican MAGA
almost
ethos.
Like, yeah, it almost has like a Republican, not goth, but something. And you know,
it's got a little like
steampunk. Is that the word? Steampunk?
Steampunk. It's like MAGA meets the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
A little bit, right?
Yeah.
That would actually be a good show concept.
Yeah, it would be actually.
It's MAGA meets The Walking Dead meets Jersey Shore.
But the original pipe hitter, according to them, was Andrew Jackson.
Andrew Jackson.
Here's the thing.
Because he massacred the Seminoles? What did he?
Original pipe hitter, Andrew Jackson Canvas. A warrior against the corrupt aristocracy, an advocate for democracy and the common man. His toughness was legendary, earning him the name Old Hickory, a virtue that makes him the perfect person to become the fourth of our series' original pipe hitter. Old Hickory joins George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Teddy Roosevelt as a one-of-a-kind design that you'll only find at Pipe Hitters Union. Well, now Useful Idiots clearly...
That's not chronological at all.
No, it's in pipe hitter. It's in pipe hittery.
Right. Who'd be the next person in that series?
Kurt Loder,
right.
I like it. He's like squat. Wait, Matt.
What?
Look at this. Talk about teabagging. In this image, he's squatting.
He is.
So it could be a teabagging pipe hitter.
Who is he teabagging there, though? That looks
probably
like
a Native American.
Yeah, that's like a Seminole. He's probably teabagging a Seminole during the Seminole Wars.
Yeah, because he has a feather in his cap or feather in his hair. Oh, this is interesting because it's kind of like hippie aesthetic.
Right.
Super thick 2-inch gallery wrap.
So there should be like a special subset of like really hardcore conservatives who are into teabagging and smoking crack.
Yeah.
They smoke up that crack. They got to find someone to squat over.
Right.
And then who are they teabagging?
Whoever, wherever there's conflict.
Right.
I'm kind of disturbed by the being like a warrior in times of peace and They have a sweatshirts that are called the Gun Depot, the Ammo Depot.
Well, that one guy's wearing there's a Humvee and a guy with this 50 caliber machine gun. You can't tell though if he's teabagging someone inside the Humvee.
Right. And here's the last thing I'll share. This is a pretty wholesome image. If we could just show that one. I shouldn't generalize because some of their images are more wholesome than others.
The Jason one?
Yeah. Original Pipe Hitters Union with Jason
Voorhees.
Yeah, of Crystal Lake.
Camp Crystal Lake.
Camp Crystal Lake. And written on his, is that a sword?
It's a machete.
That? Okay, written on his machete is, as always, Pipe Hitters Union.
Did he teabag any of his victims, Jason?
Maybe in the outtakes.
That would make that movie more interesting. Yeah. That's just the whole series would be interesting. All right. So just generally Republican pipe hitters. I mean, we should make a list of probably we're missing some other references. Like
send us your references. Yeah.
Like if you can remember other times where they misuse a word, like they don't know what a certain thing is, like
right.
We're the fraudage club or something like that, right?
Or say something like weird with like a weird subtext.
Right. Yeah. So send us any notations on that. All right, what do we have for isn't that weird?
Okay, so isn't that weird? This article comes from entrepreneur.com. People want Jeff Bezos to buy and eat the Mona Lisa. The petition already has thousands of signatures. There are petitions online that support thousands of causes, but there are some that are just strange. Such is the case of an initiative on the change.org portal that seeks to get Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world and founder of Amazon, to buy Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa and eat it.
I like it.
Yeah, I think it was good, right? Tired of waking up to a world where Bezos hasn't consumed the Mona Lisa. It would be epic. That's from Reddit. And of course, Bezos planned to travel into space with his brother on July 20th on a rocket from his company, Blue Origin. This isn't that weird because he famously ate an iguana.
Did he eat an iguana?
We have it on the show like 2 months ago.
Okay, we both have senior brains, but Matt's is way worse than mine.
Yeah, it is true.
Yeah, here's the image. Actually, we should put a thing of him. Let's make this somehow Mona Lisa instead of...
I mean, look, when you get really rich, there's not a whole lot left to do except like eat shit that other people wouldn't.
Right.
And that's why they like to watch shows about people who go into luxury restaurants and eat testicles and
tea bags
and stuff like that. Yeah, and tea bags. Yeah. So he ate an iguana. The Mona Lisa I'm a little conflicted about though.
Yeah, I don't want it to be ruined. I'd like it to be a copy of it. What do you think?
I mean, I think it should be something more like he should eat the Hope Diamond or, well, no, not even that, because even that's beautiful. I don't know.
So why doesn't he eat the painting of Andrew Jackson? Eat the pipe hitter.
He could eat the painting of Andrew Jackson.
He may get those people upset.
Eat Hitler's paintings. He could eat, how about just eating like a whole pallet of cash?
Or what about this? George Bush's paintings of Putin. Those are
cute though.
I think they're cute, but like, look, this is a time where Bush should be ashamed of seeing the humanity in little dictator, as Joanne Reed calls him today, little dictator Putin. I think that would be a good way for them to fully rehabilitate George Bush by eating his painting of Putin, because anything humanizing Putin is bad.
That's true. So he should eat that. I mean, in the spirit of the idea, like what you should really do is have him get a whole lot of money together and eat it in front of a bunch of hungry people.
Yeah, you're right. That's what he should. Yeah, like, he should burn it so it's like charred, not full burning, just a little charred.
Yeah. Put a little hot sauce on it, or so he could stuff an iguana with cash.
Oh my God, he should do a gender reveal party.
Oh, that's right.
Where he puts a cash bomb into an iguana.
Right. And it's either blue or pink ink, right? And it just blows up. It blows up the iguana.
Yeah, which is what I thought those parties did last time, even though it just blows up and it's, yeah.
Right. Or an alligator or a hippo.
Yeah, a hippo, yeah. Hippos are so cute.
Yeah, that is funny. So how many signatures do they have?
Let's see. Sorry.
7,429 people.
Yeah, and how many do they need?
They say 7,500, but
Well, watch this. Ready? I wish I could screen share because I'm about to help them reach that goal. It's okay. I'll videotape it later.
no, but it's an artificial number. It'll be 8,000 in a minute.
Oh yeah, you're right. I guess you're right. Reasons for signing. He needs to eat the Mona Lisa to save the world. I don't know who else is going to eat it. It's Jeff Bezos. He must eat Mona Lisa or else eat. Join my server of like-minded individuals, and then it's a Discord thing, so that's just self-promo.
I guess just because like the world is fucked, that it makes it funny. Like it just is a way to express how stupid the world is right now.
Right.
Jeff Bezos eating the Mona Lisa.
As long as he shits it out in space, someone writes. This is important. It needs to be done. A better use than hoarding all that money so he can feel like he's special. At least someone gets fed this way.
It's got a little bit of human centipede humor in there
too. Wow, just now I had no idea I needed Jeff Bezos to eat Mona, but I realized that I can hardly live with Mona hanging in a frame now. It must go into Bezos's mouth ASAP.
I think they should at least try to get him to comment on it.
I agree. And if he doesn't, what's he saying? Jeff, I'll forgive your evil doings if you redeem yourself this once. Become the Red Dragon.
Does he have to eat the frame too?
I don't know. Eat the effing painting, Jeff. Well, I would agree. I mean, isn't that weird, or isn't that awesome?
Yeah, I mean, I think they need to get more signatures. If it's up to like 1 million signatures, then it starts to get funny.
Yeah, you're right. It's not funny yet.
Once you get to 8 billion signatures, where the whole world is demanding this, then it becomes uncomfortable for him. Right, because then everywhere he goes, everybody he meets, he's got to be thinking like that person wants me to eat the Mona Lisa. Right now, though, he could go his whole life and never run face to face with a person.
Right, exactly. Right, you're right. But yeah.
So they got to get more people.
Is he not afraid that he's going to just die in space?
I think
maybe
some
this
people
is a
are
suicide mission because his life is kind of a mess.
I think it's just
being a billionaire. Yeah,
being rich and bored kind of a situation.
Why doesn't he go volunteer somewhere? Why doesn't he do some gardening, community garden or something?
Because fuck that.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Right? I mean, if you had $200 billion, would you do that?
No. Yes, no, I would. I thought you meant would I go to the moon, to space? No, I would do a gardening thing.
I would go to space.
Yeah. By the way, we're gonna have to do something on the summit next week. We should just warn you guys that we didn't have time to do that this week, but we'll have follow-ups. Yeah.
All right. So for Isn't That Terrible? I'm doing a story. This is pretty predictable because everybody was talking about this one. And as usual, it could have gone in the other category as well. This has everything that we always like to include in this segment because this news story is perfect. So the headline is Cape Cod diver left with a whale of a tail after a humpback spat him out. So this is about a guy. Well, we're going to read what happened to him, but already it's mandatory with these news stories for them to do dumb puns as much as possible in the headline and in the lead. So whale of a tail, I mean, I guess that's sort of a play on words, right?
Oh yeah.
But then the lead down here is a Cape Cod lobster diver is safe Friday following a fluke encounter with a humpback whale that nearly made him the Leviathan's lunch. So that's great. Like there's alliteration all over the place. Leviathan's lunch, Friday fluke following. And the fluke is the bad pun. This is like journalism 101. It's great. Michael Packard was diving off the coast of Provincetown, Massachusetts, Friday when the capital cetacean caught him unawares. I got down to about 45 feet of water, and all of a sudden I just felt this huge bump, and everything went dark. And I was like, "Oh my God, did I just get bit by a shark?" Then I felt around, and I realized there was no teeth. And I had felt really no great pain. And then I realized, oh my God, I'm in a whale's mouth. I'm in a whale's mouth and he's trying to swallow me. Packard, an experienced diver, told WBZ, which is the affiliate in Boston, that he still had his breathing apparatus on in the whale's mouth. One of the things that went through my mind was just, oh my God, what if he does swallow me? And here I am, I'm breathing air and I'm going to breathe in this whale's mouth until my air runs out. Okay, this is it. I'm going to die. After what Packard estimated to be about 30 seconds in the mammal's mandibles, again, Great alliteration there. He said the whale surfaced quickly and spit him out. All of a sudden, he went up to the surface and just erupted and started shaking his head. I got thrown in the air and landed in the water, and I was free, and I just floated there. I couldn't believe it, he added. I couldn't believe I got out of that, and I'm here to tell it. I think we like this story, right?
Yeah, I like this story for a lot of reasons, but you explain why you liked it.
It's just funny, right? Like the guy, first of all, the sort of ham-fisted writing is great. It's classic, right? And then the fact that the whale didn't mean to do it and just felt this kind of gross rubbery thing in his mouth and spat him out. That's why we like whales.
I was going to say, what I like about this is that it really, in the fate, we live in a time of sharkaganda, and I really appreciate how he reminds us this could have been a lethal encounter had it been a shark.
Right.
But because it was not a whale, shark. Right.
It was a baleen-bearing humpback whale.
That must have been insane, though. Imagine that feeling.
Must have shot himself. That might have made the whale angry. Although I guess he would have done it in his rubber suit.
Right. So. Yes. Well, you know what? You know why it'd be impossible for him to have been swallowed?
Why?
Because
he was too big for the whale's esophagus.
Do you know how big they usually are? The size of a fist.
Oh.
So what they do is they lunge. It's called lunge feeding. They just open their mouth. They don't really. I think they don't even see at the time.
No, they get all that krill in there, and then they shoot the water out through. Yeah.
It's almost like what we do with mouthwash, but if the mouthwash had little like
microorganisms in it.
Yeah, in it. Yeah.
Little shrimp.
Yeah, little shrimp. Yeah. And whatever else. Yeah. It's a little like sitting down to a really nice meal and into your mouth flies a fly. That's what a marine biologist said. Yeah.
Yeah. There were a lot of news stories about this. None of them I have to commend. I think CNN did the best goofy write-up of this story.
It's crazy. But he could have been.
The guy got a lot of airtime.
Ha ha. Is that a pun?
It was not. See? These things write themselves. Yeah.
That's really crazy.
I guess it's not terrible. Isn't this uplifting?
Yeah, isn't it literally uplifting? But this is weird. So just looking at this article at CNN, they quote this guy, Charles Mayo, a marine biologist at the Center for Coastal Studies. I don't really trust he's a marine biologist because listen to this. It's a little like sitting down to a really nice meal and into your mouth flies a fly. If you came up to atmospheric pressure and you've held your breath, you could develop an embolism. He must have kept his cool to get out of a situation like that. You have to be a top pro. The reason he's still around is because he's smart. He's a smart guy, he's a tough guy, and he's a lucky guy. What did he do that was smart? I mean, I'm not shaming him
by a whale?
To not get eaten by a whale. The whale couldn't have eaten him, even if it wanted to.
No, I'm saying that he got swallowed by he fell into a whale's mouth. That's what he did. That was smart.
And he kept his cool as opposed to what, like punching it?
And how do we know he kept his cool? He could have been freaking himself out. Yeah.
Right. I think that's very weird. I mean, for that marine biologist to say.
Yeah, the credit goes to the whale in this situation.
Yeah.
Although the whale didn't really have a choice either.
Right. So he opened, but actually there is one. Do you know what kind of whale could eat a human being if they wanted to?
Yeah, sperm whale or.
How do you know that?
Well, any of the toothy whales could have done it.
Yeah, I know, but how do you know about that toothy versus baleen whale?
I'm from a whaling state.
You are.
Yeah, I used to live right next to the home of Moby Dick.
Right.
That's Bedford.
True, of course.
So
yeah.
That's probably not the only whale that could do it.
No, but it has to be a toothed whale.
Right, it has to be a toothed whale.
I mean, not because of the teeth part, but because of the esophagus size. Right. But it's happened before, by the way, to people, some kayakers.
Been swallowed up by baleen whales.
Yeah, although I guess it's technically not swallowed. It's like mouthwashed.
Right.
Scooped up.
I don't know.
And then, of course, in the Bible.
Right, the whole Jonah thing.
Yeah.
The Bible's weird, though. It says a great fish.
Oh, interesting.
I don't read Aramaic, so I don't really know what the hell it says.
We don't know the original, yeah. We got to find out.
Yeah.
The Bible's weird, though, Matt
That's
Taibbi
a t-shirt.
Critique. Yeah, it is a t-shirt.
The Bible's weird, though.
We should have a useful idiot's guide to the Bible.
Oh, that would be great.
Right?
I tried to rewrite the Bible once.
When?
About 10 years ago. I was trying to do like a more readable version of it.
Well, let's do it. Useful Idiot's Guide to.
I got to like Genesis 26 or something ridiculous.
You stayed in the Genesis phase, though.
Right. Well,
there's only a Genesis of.
It took me that long to realize that it wasn't funny, which should tell you something about
your faith, how much you believe in God.
Yes, and some other endeavors that I've been involved with professionally.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So that happened. I don't know. I thought that was funny, but
no, it is. It is. I mean, what's funny about it is that what do you think you would have thought if that had happened? Like, if you're swimming around or diving or whatever, what do you think it is? You get
whatever the guy that marine biologist said praising that other guy, he wouldn't have said that about me, because I would have found the one way to screw this up and
which would have been
die of fright or kill the whale accidentally.
Yeah, just start punching it.
Swim the wrong way, Right.
So there was water in the mouth, obviously, right? It's so scary.
Well, that was
whales are nice, except for orcas, who are assholes. Orcas are basically sharks.
You ever seen those films of the orcas dragging seals off the beach and playing volleyball with them?
No, that sounds so typical, though.
It's kind of awesome, actually.
It's awful.
Yeah, it's horrible, but it's
isn't that really
terrible?
Good?
Yeah. All right. So that happened. Those are the 4 food groups.
I mean, speaking of water and washing, I just want to give, this could be our woke wash. We got a woke wash of the week.
Ice.
Nice, right? So this is a tweet from, shout out to ICE. During Pride Month, we recognize our LGBTQ employees, reflect on the trials that their community has endured, and rejoice with them in the triumphs of those who have bravely fought and continue to fight for full equality. Notice that they do say we recognize our LGBTQ plus employees. So, that's good, because they could
not our targets.
Yeah, not our targets, right. And, of course, what makes it really cool is that some of the people that are that ICE, targets are trans people or LGBTQ plus people.
We should put together like a little sizzle reel of all the dumbest Pride Month things, like all the corporate. Because I'm sure Raytheon did it.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. I was thinking,
what's another company? Purdue Pharma. If we strung those all together, I think that'd be pretty funny. But ICE is a pretty good one.
ICE is a really good one. And you know what?
We are breaking into your house or your place of employment, and we're going to send you to another country, maybe not even the one you're actually from.
Yes.
But we respect, your decisions about.
We respect your lifestyle choice. No, that's old school. We respect your. No. Yeah. Oh yeah, I see. Right. We respect your orientation or whatever, and that is not why we're sending you back to your death. That's
right.
Unrelated.
It's unrelated, right?
It's maybe why the people who are going to kill you, they may care, but we don't care.
Right. In a different circumstance where we weren't trying to get you out of the country and put you in a life-threatening situation forever, or separate your family.
Right. Yeah.
Family members from.
Right.
In a situation that wasn't that, we would respect your whatever.
Yeah. Well, I would say we respect it, and that doesn't give you the right to life.
Right. Yes.
Like, we would be doing this to you if you were straight, if you were cis.
Right.
You're equal opportunity deporters.
Right.
That's what they're saying, really.
We're going to use the proper nomenclature.
Right. We will use your preferred pronouns as we send out a description for you to be located by local law enforcement if we can't make it there, into the church where you're seeking refuge.
Right.
Into the sanctuary in which you're currently residing, in the hopes of not being sent back to your deaths.
Or under the house where, you've been living, you thought in safety.
Right. And this actually goes very nicely hand in hand with the story that we talked about last week. I think it was a Substack only, so you're definitely going to want to become Substack only subscribers. But Kamala Harris, in her beautiful, and we did a quiz. You're going to want to take that quiz. Who said it? Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, or Kamala Harris? But Kamala Harris did tell people from Guatemala, do not come. It was just this week that, reading at Pink News, tireless fighter and beloved trans activist assassinated just meters from her home in Guatemala. Andrea Gonzalez, a 28-year-old who helmed trans rights groups, Otras Reinas de la Noche, or Queens of the Night, was slain in what some activists have called an assassination. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because Kamala Harris said, do not come. And at the same time, she's very aware of the root causes, as she calls them, behind people wanting to come to the United States, right? And one of those root causes, she says, is transphobia. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. I'm not like blaming her for this person's death, but it is interesting that this happened, and her message to people coming from that country about whom she cares so much is do not come.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Do not come do not come despite the fact that you have a lot of transphobia. And that's of course bullshit. That's not a root cause. That's like a symptom. I mean, the violence and instability is a symptom that the United States helps create. I mean, you could, I don't know.
The whole thing is ridiculous.
It's just so ridiculous.
It's just no matter what it is, it's like having somebody come to your country and be like, don't come is pretty fucked. Like no matter what. Right.
Don't come. Instead, turn around. Don't come. Stay in that country where there's a lot of homophobia and transphobia and violence against, in her own words, right? Kamala Harris's words, violence against LGBTQ, indigenous, BIPOC, Latinx, whatever she goes through. So yeah.
Well, at least
woke Trump.
Yeah, at least ICE, has they're gonna have the right terminology, so that's good.
Right. They're gonna wish you happy Pride Month as they deport you.
Right. Put you into zip ties and push you over the border.
Rainbow zip ties.
Yeah, I think we need those.
Yeah, we do need those. Yeah. So we are really excited to have on the show, joining us today, Ross Barkan, who is a journalist, and he is the author of a new book called The Prince, which is about... I
had to read that in high school.
Yes, well, it's a remake, actually. It's a remake, okay. Yeah. This is the cover of The Prince. It's like actually something I would do. That sounds so condescending. It's something I would do. It's so good. It's something I would do. It's so me.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
There we go,
right?
Like so for people just listening, we got Andrew Cuomo's face put into Machiavelli's Prince.
Yeah, he's wearing that kind of Machiavellian cloak.
Yeah.
It's a good look. I like it.
It is a good look, right? Yeah. And it's The Prince, Andrew Cuomo, Coronavirus, and the Fall of New York. Right? Or is it Andrew Cuomo and the Fall, Coronavirus of New York? Unclear. I'm just kidding. It's obviously not that. And it's by Or Books, so make sure that you check it out. It's really great. Also, you can follow Ross's Substack, which is at rossbarkin.substack.com, and it's called Political Currents. He's a columnist at The Guardian. And we're going to talk to him about all things New York, about the mayor's race, about the governor, the prince, and so much more.
We're huge Cuomo fans.
We're Cuomosexuals.
Homosexuals. Yeah.
At the end of the day, yeah. Also follow him
at the beginning, frankly.
24/7. 24/7.
No matter what time of the day it is, like we're ready. We're game.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to take a break, right? Just to
recharge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's fair.
But, and you can follow him on Twitter at Ross Barkan. And by the way, PMC, just just so in case anyone needs to know certain acronyms, PMC is Professional Managerial Class, and PBA is the Police Benevolent Association.
And the CCRB is the Civilian Control
CCRB
Review Board.
Is Civilian Control Review Board, yeah. Cuomo is the governor. What else do they need to know? Just kidding.
Yeah, FOMO is fear of missing out.
That's true, yeah. That's actually, when Matt and I have to recharge to be active Cuomosexuals, we get Cuomo FOMO. And then we got to recharge so that we're, to get in touch with our Cuomosexuality. But during that short Cuomosexuality recharging window, what gets us back into the zone is the Cuomo FOMO. Should we talk to him?
Let's talk to Ross.
Let's talk. You know what? Let's talk to Ross. Let's just do it, guys.
The Wayne's World thing.
Which one's that?
Never mind. I'm too old.
We're not worthy? What was that?
No, never did.
5, 4,
3.
Welcome. So excited to have on Ross Barkan. And we are really excited to ask you about the mayor's race in New York City and, of course, your book on Cuomo. And I thought that maybe
one of our favorite people.
Oh, yeah. We're Cuomosexuals here. Yeah.
Well, can we get into that? Because the Republican Party actually isn't meaningfully split right now. It's basically you have to suck up to Trump or you're out, basically. But the Democratic Party is. Can you talk about the extent to which the divisions within the Democratic Party are on display in this mayoral race, which is another thing you've written about?
Definitely. So yeah, I mean, I think the Democratic Party is more ideologically diverse and factionalized. I mean, I do think the Republican Party does have kind of this like vaguely populist, like sort of left economic, like vaguely, I don't want to say left, like sort of half left economic
populist,
populist with like Josh Hawley, and you have kind of traditional conservatives like hoping to reassert themselves. But the defining element is fealty to Trump. Like you do not survive this Republican Party without fealty to Trump. So I think that kind of eliminates the factions, because if you're Liz Cheney, you just get canceled. Jeff Flake canceled, right? Elise Stefanik reinvents herself as a Trump Republican. She ascends. We know the story. And the 2024 primary, it will be about fealty to Trump, which is something I thought would happen. I'm not surprised to seeing it happen, unless Trump himself runs, which also could happen. But yeah, the Democratic primary for mayor, I mean, it's very interesting. So New York City, it's a massive city, right? I always tell people, think of this more as a statewide contest and like a municipal race because of the amount of people voting. You have an electorate in the millions, and probably you're going to get around 800,000 Democrats coming to vote. So in a lot of states, a lot of places, that's a statewide electorate. So you start right there. And New York is a very Democratic city. It is certainly more progressive than it used to be. There's no doubt about it. The left is much more ascendant than it was even 10 years ago. DSA has been winning victories in the state legislature from New York City in the last few years. AOC won in New York City. So the caveat being the left is healthier than it's ever been in New York. But the big but is the electorate is definitely ideologically diverse, and it is not simply this kind of culturally liberal, PMC like, approach to politics. You have a very big, moderate Black and Latino working class that does come out to vote, Blacks in particular. Many of them are older voters, many of them are church going, many of them are, hold, economically left of center positions, more socially moderate, certainly hold views on policing that are not the views on policing that kind of like the professional left thinks they should hold. You also have like a big Asian population that is also mixed ideologically. Trump grew his vote share in New York City. This is true in cities throughout America, but the Latino vote in New York City, like in other places, swung toward Trump. Not Latinos are still voting Democrat in much bigger numbers, but that is where his gains were. So it's important to like keep that in mind. You have a very diverse electorate. You have like older, like progressive liberals. You have like older moderates. You have like young leftists. You have Orthodox Jews who are growing in their share of the vote. So there's so many factions. Like there's just so many different factions. So a winner has to knit together different coalitions. Something Bill de Blasio did, which progressives like rarely do, which is he was able to knit together white progressives and Black moderates. This is kind of like the Holy Grail for the left that can never quite get pulled off. It usually gets pulled off by moderates or by Barack Obama, who did it as well. So Bill de Blasio did this. People malign him, but in 2013, he had a multiracial family. He ran a very good campaign. He brought these people together, and he brought Latinos in as well. The 2021 race is much more fractured. Right now, the moderates are absolutely winning. We'll see what happens on Tuesday. We have ranked choice voting. We're not going to know till July because the absentee ballots get counted after. New York State has talked about Jim Crow like laws. People fulminate about the South. New York State like had the worst voter laws in America until like a year or two ago. So, the closest thing to that is honestly New York. So, we have a super incompetent patronage-ridden board of election. So the moderates, right? Like right now, the front runner is probably Eric Adams, who is a Black former police captain who was once a Republican and is running on a tough on crime message. he's a reformer himself. Like, he's talked about police reform, but the message he's propagating is crime is rising. I will turn the city around. People are getting shot in the streets, and I'll be there for you. It's working right now. Andrew Yang also, rather than kind of lean into like the wonky kind of left brand he had in the presidential, is really running as a moderate. And he slipped a bit, but he's still towards the top of the tier. And then you have Catherine Garcia, who is Bill de Blasio's former sanitation commissioner, who, despite being a Bill de Blasio alum, is also running in a more moderate lane. She's like pro charter schools. She's also for funding police. All three of these candidates, Yang, Garcia, Adams, are very explicitly against the funding the police. And then you have one candidate who's kind of in the top tier, endorsed by AOC, Maya Wiley, Bill de Blasio's former counsel. She's vaguely for defunding the police, but I would say she's kind of more of like a left liberal kind of Warren type candidate. There's like there's no Bernie style person running at all. Wiley's kind of a Warren, and then you got three Biden-esque candidates kind of fighting over this, white liberal, but also like big kind of broad working class base. And like, who's going to win? I don't know. I think Adams has the inside track right now based on available polling.
Wiley, isn't that interesting? Just saying.
Like Wiley Coyote, yeah.
She's an MSNBC pundit too. That's why she has a big Twitter following from
fantastic.
MSNBC. Yeah.
Can't have enough of those in politics.
Yeah.
Isn't this race really interesting though, in terms of what it's going to signal nationally for the party? Because my take on how the national media anyway covers the Democratic electorate is that it just doesn't understand where the votes are coming from and who they're voting for and why. You talk about how these moderate candidates who are sort of anti-defunding the police, those numbers hold up pretty consistently across the country. And there's a real schism, I think, between what the op-ed pages, people in the op-ed pages think about, the certain voters and what the reality is. Is this going to be one of the first sort of litmus tests that like lets people know what the actual composition of the Democratic electorate looks like?
It can be. I mean, the irony is New York City's electorate is much more liberal than the national electorate, but even there, you're seeing success from candidates running on tough on crime platforms. Candidates who are still, by the way, from a historical context, are running much to the left than their predecessors. I mean, no one is supporting like building more jails. No one is like, we have to lock up more people. No one is like, increase penalties for all these crimes. I mean, even Eric Adams is not like going there. But what they are saying is like, we want more cops in neighborhoods, and we got to be tough on tougher on people doing bad things and get illegal guns off the streets, right?
But he packs heat, right? He's packing heat.
Yeah. So Eric Adams is a retired police officer. So by law, he can carry a gun, and he has said before he would carry a gun on himself, carry a gun on his body if he were elected. Though he's backtracked off this, but knowing him, it wouldn't shock me if he carried a gun. I mean, Adams is a very interesting figure. Very incendiary, but very smart. I think there are some parallels to Trump in the way he'll say like kind of very off the wall things and kind of move on from them. But I think he's a lot smarter than Trump and more canny than Trump. And I've written that he would be a much tougher opponent for leftists in New York City as a Black man, as a moderate, as someone who has the support of organized labor, has the support of democratic institutions. He's not going to be easily moved or budged in the way other mayors might be. So yeah, I think it would be a national story to be only the second Black mayor. And I do think, for the defund movement, of which, I have both sympathy, but also some skepticism toward, it would be a setback. I mean, it would be a setback if, you get a top four in RCV and three of these candidates are explicitly against defunding the police, and one is vaguely in favor. And Maya Wiley, again, in the vaguest of senses, because that's kind of, she's run kind of, I would say, a middling campaign that has kind of benefited from the collapse of like other sort of left of center candidates. So yes, I think it could be a referendum on defund. Like, if it's not going to fly in the New York City electorate, I don't know where it would fly. To be frank. Portland maybe. Like, I don't know. Portland's 70% white. So maybe it'll fly there.
Right. I mean, I guess that's sort of my point. Like even when de Blasio got elected, he got elected as a straight up police reform candidate, and he turned right around and put what's his face in as his commissioner, Bill Bratton. Yeah, exactly. Right. So the reality of mayors in New York City historically is that they, no matter what they say about police during the campaign, they always find out like on day one after the election that they need the cops to rule, or they think they do, and they move in that direction. So it's significant that even during the campaign stage, even they're already in this place, which is somewhat different than what the expectations might have been.
Yeah, you've seen, I'd say, some shifts to the left. Like no one wants the PBA endorsement really. Though Yang has like signaled he'd maybe want it. He took the police captain's endorsement, but the PBA endorsed Trump, so they're kind of toxic. But yeah, I mean, no one in the top tier is running on a platform of like slashing the NYPD budget tremendously and kind of taking the fight to the police. It's talk of reform, of overhauling, but it's also talk of like solving crimes, of having a police presence in these working class neighborhoods that are experiencing real rises in shootings and in murders. And that is a reality that I think that the professional left ignores. And there's a really good book, Ghetto Side, which maybe you read. Yeah, it's really opened my eyes to kind of policing. And the story of Ghetto Side is poor people in neighborhoods without resources want good police. They don't want no police. They want good police who will solve crimes and care about their plight. Like if their son, their brother, their mother is killed by a bullet, they want to know the police department is going to go in there, investigate the crime, and bring the killer to justice. That's what they want. And they're not going to get that in a defund regime. They're not going to get that if the NYPD is cut in half. They will get it with more competent and better policing. And how you get that, it's a debate. You can have a healthy debate about how you get more competent, better policing. How do you reform the department? Personally, I'm intrigued by like models in Europe and Germany in particular, really extensive training, really extensive education, really incentivizing better people to join the police department. I do support, having social workers there, having mental health professionals, nonviolent responses when necessary. But I do think the professional kind of affluent left has really fallen in love with this idea of police as like murderers, as slave catchers, as like these evil actors who the working class and poor people of America want to see disappear. It's just not the case. There's literally like no evidence to undergird that at all.
The criticisms that they do have make tons of sense. Like they want certain tactics to end. They don't want the vertical searches in the houses. They don't want to be stopped and frisked. They don't want to have to deal with the constant harassment on the streets, but they do want a police presence. And, there's a lot of tension there because there are different strategies that people favor in terms of policing. But the idea that people in these neighborhoods want the police to be gone completely is I think a mystery to the situation. They definitely want the abusive tactics to end, but
for sure. And one of the real wrinkles that I told my friends on the left, like I have a lot of friends in DSA and friends in sort of these professional left circles, is that in New York City, one of the prime demands of like middle class Black communities in Southeast Queens, which is middle class area of Queens, has been adding a police precinct. For years, they've talked about this part of Queens only is served by one precinct. Response times are low. We want a second police precinct. Last year in the budget cuts, as part of like this vague attempt at funding was paused for that second police precinct, and a lot of the Black leaders, Black residents were upset. Like we've been asking for a second police precinct in this community for decades. This year, the funding was restored. There is going to be that next police precinct. And so it's very hard, when these sort of professional left, NGO left people talk about speaking for the working class. You've got to listen to the working class. I myself am very much a leftist. I would consider myself a socialist in terms of my political orientation. But, you've got to also listen to what people are saying. You can't come into a neighborhood and say, you want defund, we're closing your police precinct down. they don't want that. Yeah, they want better policing. They don't want the precincts to disappear. And the truth is, if you look at New York history, we saw a version of defund in the 1970s. New York City had a massive fiscal crisis in 1975. The city almost goes bankrupt and everything got cut. Education, schools, teachers are laid off, sanitation workers are laid off, libraries are closed, hospitals are closed. It is the most devastating period for New York City. Cops are laid off. It took, I was reading old press clippings, from the times, from the 70s and 80s, it took like a decade or more to even restore headcount to where it was in the 70s. So you saw a real sustained period of defunding the police in New York City after the fiscal crisis. It did not lead to a better police department. It did not lead to better outcomes. It was a disaster. You need to invest in social services. I think that's great. I agree with to fund people. You've got to pump more money into education, into after school programs, into jobs. A jobs guarantee program would be great, but you're not going to solve the problem by making police utterly disappear.
I thought that maybe you can answer this question, which is why, it's a little risky because hopefully if you don't have a good answer, then we're going to get canceled. But
take the risk.
Take the risk, right?
Good.
So we, of course, have a lot of New York viewers, but we are an international show, both internationalists and with an international audience. So why does what happens in New York matter to the rest of the country?
Sure. So, New York was the original epicenter of COVID. And even after the successive waves of COVID and the suffering nationwide and all the reports from last summer, New York still remained really the worst hit place in the country. New York State overall ended up with the second highest death rate. That was only second to New Jersey, which is next to New York. And in terms of, raw death toll, only trailed California, which was twice as big. So the decisions made in New York impacted the nation. And there was actually a good New York Times story about this way into last year about how COVID actually spread out from kind of an uncontained New York as people both fled and kind of the virus progressed. So New York's utter failure to contain the virus and really, do anything to mitigate this catastrophic death toll, probably played a role in America's suffering as well. Of course, it's not that simple, right? I'm not going to say, oh, New York caused COVID. No, not at all, right? This was a very hard virus to deal with. As we saw internationally, a lot of countries struggled with coronavirus. And I never at any point in my book or anywhere else lay all the blame on COVID on Andrew Cuomo, right? It was a national problem. It was a local problem. And very few countries, with few exceptions, did well with COVID, and that includes Europe. That being said, and we can go more into it, there were critical decisions made, rhetorical postures taken that really cost tens of thousands of lives within New York State.
There was a critical period last year when the pandemic was just starting, when the campaign was still going on, and there were these rumblings in the country that Andrew Cuomo was the leader that America needed during this emergency. There were people who were even talking about maybe we should reconfigure the primary race to somehow make him the nominee who would run against Trump. And yet they were making fateful decisions about COVID during this time. Can you talk about what they actually did during this time versus what the image was?
Yes. So one of the big parts of my book is really the early TikTok, for lack of a better word, of New York's response in February and March of 2020. So I really went back, dug into the transcripts, the press conferences, the news clips. I had my own reporting because I was reporting on this for The Nation and other outlets at the time, so I could go back and cite my own work as well. And the amazing thing is, and I had actually forgotten this and didn't really see it clearly until I started reporting for the book, was Cuomo's rhetoric on COVID was very similar to Donald Trump's. And this is something that got entirely memory hold by sort of the, liberal mainstream establishment media, which Matt, you've written excellently about. So basically, Cuomo repeatedly, not once, but many times, compared COVID to SARS and Ebola and said it wasn't a big deal. And he does this a lot. He does this in February of 2020. And the thing that was striking to me is that he keeps doing this well into March of 2020. So if you remember, by March of 2020, it's very clear COVID's a big deal. The first case shows up in New York March 1st. Many smart people believe it's been there much sooner. We know the problems in China and Italy. This thing is going to get very bad. I think there's very few people kind of who are cogent who would say this is not going to get bad. Andrew Cuomo standing up in front of the local media, the national media, as late as March 11th, comparing COVID to the common flu, saying the fear is worse than the virus, right? We can't give in to hysteria. Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York City, does a similar thing, but it's Cuomo who's taking the lead here. The governor of New York is by far the most powerful figure in New York State, having to do with the way the government is set up. And I can go into that in detail later. But basically, the first thing I really found, and I was just shocked that so few people had written on this, was just his rhetoric. His rhetoric was disastrous, telling people it's not a big deal. Don't be scared. We've conquered other things, right? Like once you invoke Ebola, all hope is lost. Because we remember the Ebola outbreak. It was a problem in Africa. It was confined to there. A few cases made their way to America. Nothing was changed. Life went on as normal. It was horrific there, fine here. So once you invoke Ebola, you enter this realm of, oh, we'll be fine. And people knew better. Scientists knew better. Journalists who'd been studying what was going on in China knew better. Even in the New York Times, they knew better. You could learn about COVID in Wuhan just reading the Times' reporting in January 2020. Like it wasn't a secret by then. So really catastrophic rhetoric. And then you couple that with very slow movement to shut down New York City. And, California, particularly San Francisco, and the surrounding counties did a very good coordinated shutdown that actually did save a lot of lives before New York did. And even to this day, the San Francisco death toll is quite low. Southern California would get hit later on. So early shutdown. Bill de Blasio, March 17th, suggests it's time to shelter in place. Cuomo says, no, we're not doing it because he hates Bill de Blasio. Not until it was about March 22nd is the shelter in place statewide order put into place. By then, thousands of people are sick, thousands of people are dying. It is way too late.
One of the things that we pointed out a lot on Useful Idiots was that Cuomo, all he had to do was basically not say that you should inject your lungs with bleach to differentiate himself from Trump. Right. So you talk about how similar the rhetoric is. And I think that another part of it is that his just kind of his not talking even though he did do this kind of downplaying of it, he didn't speak like an insane person. And, people found a lot of false comfort, I would say, given his policies, in just the way he would update people. Right. So he really distinguished himself as a man of reason and science, as opposed to Donald Trump, who, in the face of science, ignore science or doubt science or cast doubt on it. And it's a really interesting point that you made. And it's fascinating, as you say, that people weren't pointing this out about him, even Cuomo's critics. And I do think that just having Donald Trump as a foil was so great for Cuomo. And he could cut with stuff with healthcare in the budget.
Oh, absolutely. I do believe that if Joe Biden, through some alchemy, had been president last year, Andrew Cuomo would not be a national hero. It just doesn't happen. If you had even a Democratic president that wasn't handling COVID well, right? And 600,000 people dead, maybe a Democratic president gets the death toll down a bit. But as we saw again, very competent leaders in Europe also struggled mightily with this. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend Joe Biden would have stopped COVID. I think that's silly. But given any kind of normal-ish president who spoke coherently and didn't sound incendiary and deranged and tweet crazy stuff and suggest crazy things, Andrew Cuomo is not a national hero. People, you think back to March of 2020, right? People are shut in their homes, people, particularly white collar professionals, they're watching cable TV all the time. It's all they're doing.
Right.
And unfortunately, with journalism, I said this before, I do think it too often, and I love fiction, I write fiction, but too often takes on the tropes of fiction, seeks narratives, heroes, villains. We have to have a foil, right? Cuomo fills this void. Both Trump and Cuomo are from Queens, but Cuomo is like the tough talking, straight talking, it has real gravitas to him. Trump does not. And, Cuomo is like your tough, like father-in-law, giving you advice, and Trump is your crazy uncle. So I do think, that demeanor, that approach appealed to a lot of people in that moment, though he was doing nothing to save lives or very little to save lives. And also to the media, and the media is complicit here. I mean, regular people did celebrate Cuomo and enjoy Cuomo, but if you look at the coverage from that period, it is ridiculously fawning. Cuomo is appearing on the cover of multiple national magazines. He's on the cover of Rolling Stone. He was on the cover of Vanity Fair. In the New York Times, he's getting celebratory coverage. His aides, like Melissa DeRosa, who played a role in the cover-up of the nursing home deaths, which we can talk about later, she is profiled by Harper's Bazaar. It really is like this manic period of Cuomo hero worship that lasts several months, and I think does the damage of still protecting his reputation, even as he's no longer as popular as he used to be. He's coming off such a high peak. He's not yet in the gutter where probably a normal politician would be after these scandals and other problems that he encountered this year.
Well, we saw the press kind of openly make him campaign for the role of the 9/11 Giuliani to this pandemic. I mean, they were longing to just sort of slot somebody into a familiar character trope, which was bizarre to watch. It's like they were trying to shoehorn him into something that didn't really exist. But he definitely benefited from that. Did he not?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. Definitely there are a lot of parallels between Giuliani and 9/11 and Cuomo and COVID. In each instance, neither man did anything at all to save lives. In Giuliani's defense, couldn't stop 9/11. He did move infamously after the World Trade Center bombing in 93 against the advice of smart people. He moved the OEM headquarters into the World Trade Center, and then they were rendered, useless very quickly in 9/11.
What's the OEM?
Office of Emergency Management. Yeah. So he moved these headquarters into the Trade Center after the 93 bombing, and people were like, well, why? This was a terrorist target. Don't do that. I don't even know why he did it, but he did it. There is a reason. You have to go back in the press clippings.
Well, he did also cost lives by I guess it was Christine Todd Whitman was the New York EPA at the time, EPA director, but they did downplay the risks to rescue workers. Yes. They said it was safe to go down there and I don't know the numbers, but there's a significant number of people who got cancer basically from doing that.
Yes. So yes,
pulmonary,
yeah. Yes, yeah. Many people suffering to this day who are dead, from that time. So yeah.
And shout out to the late Steve Levin, who ran Mount Sinai's World Trade Center rescue workers clinic. They opened an entire clinic to deal with that. That's how bad it was.
Yes, no, it was horrific. So Giuliani, enjoys this post, 9/11 popularity. Almost tries to secure himself a third term as mayor. Did not work out, and then he obviously coasted off of this for a long time. Turned it into a failed presidential bid, made millions of dollars. Defenestrated himself later on with Trump, and so on. So yes, I think that the media hungers for narratives, hungers for foils. It's like there's kind of this collective yearning to fill voids sometimes, and the coverage in a sane democracy, the coverage would have been Trump is terrible, but Cuomo is doing a bad job too.
Yeah,
and I told people repeatedly throughout 2020, both of these things can be true.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I'm not here defending Donald Trump's COVID response. It was not good. But this does not mean Andrew Cuomo is awesome and is doing an incredible job. In fact, he is not. And subsequently, his response in the months to come would be quite destructive in terms of the quiet austerity regime that he imposed on New York throughout 2020, and was very luckily reversed to an extent by the federal stimulus money that came in. But that would not have happened without the Democratic Senate. So Cuomo got lucky there.
It's the but Trump phenomenon. But Trump, if you raise any criticism of a Democrat, as long as you're not doing and saying exactly what Trump is doing and saying, again, you're foiled by that. But what's interesting is that I feel like we saw this cynically weaponized by people in the defense. They use it to give cover to Democrats. But in this case, I actually think it functioned as giving cover, but I think that people were so seduced by just language that recognized science, even though, as you pointed out, he was not actually taking it seriously enough, and he was actually misrepresenting what it was by comparing it to Ebola.
The remarkable thing with Cuomo is, and I'm sort of skeptical of the follow the science cult, right? Though, I mean, science. Oh no,
me too.
But I was going to add, as my pivot from that, is that Cuomo did not follow the science, and in fact, his staffers in government, the people making public health decisions, were mostly not doctors and scientists. They were his political appointees. The guy heading up the vaccine response in 2020 and 2021 was Larry Schwartz, who is a literal political hack who has been Cuomo's friend for decades, and is working as a volunteer to oversee, coordinate vaccines in the state. So this is a theme with Cuomo where he's not even following the science. For other states, you looked at Washington State, which had a pretty good COVID response. Jay Inslee was empowering, scientists and doctors to speak to the public very directly. One thing I write about in my book is Cuomo is insistent that he is the face of COVID. It is not any public health official, which is contrasted with Washington State, even California, where public health officials are put at the forefront. It's Cuomo,
right?
And his health commissioner in the state is in essence a flunky who will do anything Cuomo says, and is not an independent health official in any way.
I guess I meant more he science virtue signaled,
yes,
right?
He did. He virtue signaled. Yes, absolutely. So behind the scenes, he was not trusting the science, but yes, publicly, he was very fact-based.
Exactly.
That goes back to the PowerPoints, right?
Right.
People are obsessed with these PowerPoints. It appeals to this PMC obsession with expertise. Here he is, Donald Trump is babbling about, drinking bleach, and everyone's going to be in church by Easter. Cuomo's sitting down every day at 11 a.m. with PowerPoints. Oh my God, words on a PowerPoint.
Exactly, yeah.
I am awed by this. So yes, he spoke to those liberal sensibilities. I mean, that's what New York is. And that's what, the media is. I mean, the media loves the idea of expertise, not necessarily expertise itself, but the appearance, the aesthetic of expertise.
Yeah, it was a performative wonkery.
Yes, because he's not a wonk, but he can perform as one.
Yeah. Well, that was a great interview with Ross Barkan.
It was a great interview.
It was, right?
Ross, and it was with Ross Barkan too.
I'm correct on both fronts.
you were completely correct. There was no time during any of that statement where we were in danger of you being wrong about something.
I wonder, have we ever done it where I've said that was a great interview and you've been pulled a Larry David?
Openly?
It was a decent, just in your head. Right. I mean, in your head, who knows? But openly, no. You've known to censor yourself.
I might have said something it was good, not great. I might have.
Yeah. I don't think you have.
I haven't said that?
You've been that's the best interview ever.
Have I? Was I being sarcastic?
No, it was with Adam McKay.
Oh, right. That was the best interview ever that we've done.
Although that we've done, no, the best interview ever.
Right.
Also, Omar, though, I think you really liked Michael K. Williams.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Great interview. And, since we were discussing Andrew Cuomo's Emmy, I thought we could watch this short clip of him.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, right?
As a New Yorker, I am a Muslim. As a New Yorker, I am Jewish. As a New Yorker, I am Black. I am gay. I am disabled. I am a woman seeking to control her health and her choices, because as a New Yorker, we are one community.
So here's my question. Ready? Which is he the most convincing as? Remember, because this is a guy who won an Emmy. So which is his best acting performance of all of these? Okay, let's watch this.
I am a Muslim. As a New Yorker, I am Jewish. As a New Yorker, I am Black. I am gay. I am disabled. I am a woman seeking to control her health and her choices. Because as a New Yorker, we are one community.
He's a woman seeking to control her health.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little problematic.
It's a little
honestly,
Sybil.
Because Sybil?
I mean, he's got he's a little multiple personality situation going on there. He's all these people at once.
Well, no, I think the problem is he's not. In fact, that's what I would say is wrong with it. It's not actually intersectional because he makes these things kind of mutually exclusive. Why not, as a New Yorker, I'm a Black, gay, Jewish, Muslim, disabled woman fighting for her reproductive freedom.
Right. Against someone like me.
Yeah.
Right.
As a New Yorker, I detest Andrew Cuomo.
Right. Yeah. Well, he obviously couldn't go there. I think he sold that pretty well. I thought that was going to be like a factor of 10 more cringe than it ended up being.
Yeah, I guess so. So you're saying he's
credit where credit is due.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he is good. He's not good at controlling COVID. He's not good at being honest about nursing home deaths, but he's pretty good at playing in his role of Black, Jewish, woman, disabled, gay, New Yorker, Muslim.
Who is sexually attractive to Trevor Noah and Ellen DeGeneres.
Well, he doesn't brag about that. That's actually, no, that's not his role. That is what he is.
That's what he is.
Like that, if he had said that, that would have just been a humble brag.
But we can say it for him, though.
Yes, we can say that, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's interesting. That that was interesting talk with Ross, by the way, because the results that are coming up, that'll be something we can actually discuss.
We didn't ask him to predict it. Damn.
You know what we should do? We should compare the actual drama that that happened within the Democratic faction in New York to the very heated drama on left Twitter, and see if there's any
overlap
between real political drama and that other thing. Or is that a taboo subject right now?
No, this will be a good Substack only. I think we should get into it again. Like, it's been a while since we probed the real reasons of our severing ties with Rolling Stone. But our new obsession is, I think, this Twitter beef, these online personalities. So if you want to hear that chat.
It's kind of awesome how venomous it's gotten. In the last week, it went to 11.
Yeah, it got to 11. And one of the things is that, by the way, my favorite part of that, though, is that they then promised that they were going to have a journalist from Syria on who was going to bring the receipts. And said journalist is a white American named Pat Hillsman, who I guess is not from Syria, but I believe he's been to Syria.
He once saw Syria on a map.
On a map, yeah, from his window. No, I think
he ate Syrian bread.
I've never had that, but it sounds really good.
You never had Syrian bread?
I don't think so.
It's like a pita.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. It's like a pocket.
But I think that's like such a, really? You couldn't find one? Here's the thing. If you're not going to be able to find a reporter from Syria, why would you preview in a tweet that you're going to have on a journalist from Syria?
I don't know. Why are you asking this question, Katie? What do you have something against the Young Turks?
No, I don't. In fact, I often find myself, honestly, wishing that they would take my advice, which is that, again, and I'm being very generous here, they don't like me. My thing to them was, you're not going to win, not because I fight with them over force to vote, but they're not going to win that battle. They're just not going to win. And the other side, that's their lane. It doesn't make any sense. They should just ignore it. And yeah, for this, my advice for them is, in general, you should deliver the guests that you promise you're going to deliver. Speaking of which, next week we're going to have on
Beyonce,
yes. We're having on Beyonce to talk about that lemon cleanse that we referred to.
Right.
And so make sure you check out our Substack from last week also to understand this TYT on gray zone violence. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Just and it's like, just own it. You're doing a segment on Syria because you're mad at Aaron Mate. And then again, their guests, they didn't even have a guest. Their two guests or correspondents. They didn't even have a guest. They had it was Anna and two correspondents who had literally never been to Syria or the Middle East. Didn't really have anything to add.
What do you think's coming next? Either like a piñata or
with Aaron's face on it?
Yeah, or I don't know, like a hanging in effigy.
Maybe. Unclear.
Yeah, we'll have to check it out. Anyway, thanks for following us this week. Next week when we have Beyonce and who else?
Beyonce and Kamala Harris, and Michael Jackson, the ghost of Michael Jackson, from the dead. Yeah,
right. Yeah.
What else? A lot of great stories. Honestly,
Machiavelli.
At the end of the day. Yeah, Machiavelli. Yeah. Oh, and Kurt Loder, of course.
Kurt Loder, right? Yeah. So we're gonna have all those people on. We're gonna do a little seance. Yeah. And it's just not gonna work. Yeah. But come and listen anyway, just to see how huge of a fail it is. And in the meantime, don't listen to any other podcasts.
Oh no, never. If you do that, you're part of.
Don't financially support anybody else except us. And thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much for watching this. To hear the rest of our chat with Ross Barkan, where we talk about defund the police and whether that is a slogan developed by PsyOps, as well as a quick update on the latest in the TYT gray zone drama, please join our Substack at usefulidiots.substack.com and subscribe to us on YouTube and subscribe to us on iTunes and rate and review us. How you like them apples?
I like them.
A+
See you next week, folks.
See you next week. Bye.